Speed Channel welcomes you to Darlington, South Carolina, NASCAR's original super speedway, where Winston Cup Series drivers are about to begin final practice for the Mountain Dew Southern 500. It was September 4th, 1950 when the first Southern 500 was run, and over the years, some of the sport's greatest drivers have made their mark on the history of the sport by speeding around this awkwardly shaped old track faster than others could. Tomorrow, another special place in the record books awaits one of 43 drivers in the Southern 500 field. A few minutes before the cars hit the track, let's go down into the Winston Cup garage. Here's Marty Snyder.
Alan, tomorrow our championship leader, Matt Kenseth, will start 6th in happy hour practice. Just a few moments ago, he was second fastest. How's the car, Matt?
It's okay. I mean, that was just one lap. You know, ran a good lap, but still working on it. It's not as good as I hoped it would be, but it's all right.
A lot of talk about the patches over in Turn 2. We have some new pavement over there. How's that affect your race car?
It's kind of messed up, to be honest. It's, you know, the old pavement, the car slides a lot on, especially on old tires. Then you grab the new pavement, and it just grips and turns the car the other way. So it's kind of interesting. Hopefully they won't come up. If they don't come up, it won't be a big problem. But if the asphalt starts to come up, it'll be, you know, a little bit treacherous over in Turn 2.
And he's our championship leader. Good for one lap, but also good on the long runs. Dave Burns.
Well, Marty, Jimmie Johnson almost sat on the pole yesterday, qualified outside the front row, but this morning in practice, you were quickest, Jimmy, so safe to say your car is very good in race trim?
Yeah, it's very good. Unfortunately, we weren't the fastest when it counted. We're doing it in practice, but we've got a great race car. I think on the board so far, you know, through practice yesterday and everything that's gone on, the worst we've been is 4th. So we've got a great race car. I was trying to build some drivability into it. It's really fast, and it seems like if you can be fast on a short run, you can stay out of trouble and get good position. But you know, we need to bring a little bit of drivability back into it.
All right, then, Jimmie Johnson. Alan?
Dave, thanks. Alan Bestwick, Benny Parsons. Former Darlington winner Benny Parsons here at the track Too Tough to Tame, where Winston Cup final practice for the Southern 500 gets underway shortly. Whenever we come to Darlington, drivers talk about tires, the fact that this racetrack's pavement just wears the tires away, losing grip on the car. So in practice here, how does a driver know how his car's handling is versus just what the tires are doing?
And that's why experience is so important here at this racetrack. And folks, you're going to love it. We're not going to talk about gasoline this weekend at all. We're going to be talking about tires the entire weekend because they're only good for one lap. Then they start dropping off. I mean, it's up to the driver with experience to tell the crew, look, I know what the car is going to feel like at 20 laps. Here's what we've got to do. And if they're not able to do that, then their car is not going to be very good in 25, 30 laps, because from the first lap to the 50th lap, these cars will slow down probably 2 full seconds.
Yeah, it's tough to keep a grip on this old racetrack. Now, weather has been a story throughout the weekend so far because it's hot. Darlington, Labor Day weekend, imagine that, it's hot. How does a hot weather affect the way a car drives on this racetrack?
Well, it just makes the racetrack slicker, as Wallace says, very, very slippery. The problem is inside the car, that last 150 miles, it is so hot, the humidity is so high, you lose so much moisture, you're so fatigued that last 150 laps, it really can affect the driver and his mental state.
So he's got to be on his game today as well as tomorrow, hydration, all that kind of thing to be ready for tomorrow.
But I just thought about something. They've got all this trick stuff in the cars now, air conditioners and what have you. It might not be a problem as it was, a bigger problem as it was 30 years ago. It was a huge problem 25, 30 years ago.
Cars getting ready to hit the track here in Darlington for Winston Cup final practice. Wally Dallenbach will be joining us shortly. That's David Spade. He was just out on the track with Wally, taping the old Wally's World segment for tomorrow. And Wally gave David Spade a lesson in Darlington. It's called a Darlington stripe. We'll be back in just a minute on Speed. Labor Day weekend racing doesn't end on Sunday. Monday afternoon here on Speed, 2:30 Eastern Time. ASA Series is in Minneapolis. Traditional Labor Day weekend date there. Join us live on Speed Monday, 2:30 Eastern Time. Winston Cup final practice about to get underway here in Darlington. Marty?
I tell you, AB, here in March, we had a great finish for this race. Ricky Craven won, but he beat and banged with Kurt Busch all the way to the finish. Kurt, is the car as good today on long runs as it was in March?
Right now we've been all over the place with the Rubbermaid 4. It's just a matter of making sure that it's good on the long run. Right now we're not that quick on the shorter run. So we'll see how it all shakes up. And we're going to try 2 different types of setups here and see if we can get the overall balance better.
Obviously the finish was fun in March, but how do you go about making your car better on the longer runs here in a happy hour practice?
We just try to be a little bit less aggressive with different springs and different shocks and try to use all 4 tires the same. And when you do that, obviously you come in and you take 4 tires every time here. So it's just a better overall balance. And I mean, we thrashed our cars in the spring together and we finished second. Hopefully we'll be in position to do it again.
He wants to do the same thing tomorrow, but just be on the other end of that, Dave, winning the race. Dave Burns.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his way to his red number 8 right now. Pretty sporty this morning, 3rd in practice. You feel good about it?
Yeah, my car's driving pretty good. Just run a few laps here and make sure everything's still in order. Probably won't get too hectic this is practice as long as the car's still running like it is. I think I got a good car, especially for the long run. It stayed real comfortable.
Now, I know you guys got the wall one time on the back. Well, maybe more than one time, but I saw it scraped up. I mean, was that something that told you something good about it? Is that a good Darlington stripe, or is that you got something bad out?
Well, we hit it twice, and it was the first 2 runs yesterday in qualifying trim, and they put these new patches over there, and all the reference points I had before are gone, and so it took me a while to kind of figure out how to go, basically learn the track again. So, but it's all right. We qualified okay. We really struggled in qualifying. So real proud of how we did there. The race car is real good.
Very good. Hop in, bud. Thank you.
All right, we'll be back with the cars on track in a minute. Darlington Raceway and coverage of Winston Cup final practice here on Speed Channel. Cars just rolling off the pit lane and up onto the racetrack now. And they've got 45 minutes of track time to get it all figured out for the Southern 500.
And you saw a quick shot of those seal spots. There's a couple more down in turns 3 and 4, but the majority of them are down in 1 and 2. Sterling Marlin, the 40 car, first car on the track.
Sterling, former winner here at Darlington, not in the Southern 500, though. He's won the spring race on a couple of occasions. Marty?
And this is actually the car they took to victory lane here last year in the March race, Alan, but already problems for these guys in the first practice. An engine problem once again. BP, you remember that ignition problem they were having in Michigan?
I do.
Same thing happening today. They don't know what's going on, but after 8 laps, it just starts to miss, and they can't figure it out. So more than likely, unless something clears up in this practice, they will have to change engines and go to the back of the field to start the Southern 500 tomorrow.
Well, in Michigan, they changed engines, and the problem vanished, right? Wasn't that correct?
The problem went away, and they eliminated it when they changed engines. And I just talked to Tony Santana-Cola, and he said, you know, I have no idea what it is or what's causing it, but it's certainly there, and it's obvious it's the same exact problem we had in Michigan. So they, again, will probably have to change engines after this practice is over with.
Sterling scheduled to start 13th in the Southern 500 on Sunday. Well, Wally's made it here.
Did I miss anything?
Not yet.
Good, good.
We talked about those spots right there that Ricky Rudd just drove through, and Junior talked about that the spots, he lost his reference points in making the lap around the racetrack, and it was a little confusing to him, but
those spots were fixed because of the bumps?
Yes, I'm assuming that just bumpy over there, and they're trying to take that washboard effect out.
The bumps and the fact that in the spring race there was a little bit of degradation of the pavement in those areas because of the bumps. So they not only wanted to smooth the bumps, but they wanted to make sure they didn't have a problem with the pavement in the warmer weather race. You looked like you had some issues in that part of the racetrack.
No, they were self-inflicted issues.
Okay.
I wasn't going fast enough to really have any issues.
More details tomorrow. Here's Ryan Newman, fastest man in Bud Pole qualifying yesterday for the 6th time this season.
I started to say that's a real shock, that 12 car being on the front row.
Ryan says Darlington is by far his favorite racetrack.
Really?
By far.
That helps. He likes the difficulty factor moved up there, doesn't he?
Yep.
And this is difficult because back in the middle of 1 and 2, we'll ride along with someone in just a little bit and go through 1 and 2, and that is a tough corner. Here, the wall is a magnet.
Yes.
It just seems like it reaches out and grabs you.
But there, you can get in a 4-wheel drift in 3 and 4, and it's comfortable. It's like you said, it's smooth, but when you get in there, the car washes up and it stops. But in 1 and 2, it's so bumpy up there that when you're up against that wall, sometimes it reaches out and grabs you.
And right there, when you have to make that turn to the left, you can't see where you're going. It has to be all by feel and by reference points.
Ryan trying to go by the 4 car. That's Kevin LePage back behind the wheel of that machine this week. As the driver carousel continues for Morgan McClure Racing. I tell you, Ryan saying this is his favorite racetrack. Not hard to understand why. He's run here 3 times. He's finished 5th, 2nd, and 14th. Did you have that kind of record in your first 3 tries at Darlington?
No, I spun out on the 5th lap, the 17th lap, and all that other stuff. No,
I actually ran good one of the first years I ran here. Keystone car, but
yeah.
it's a fun track to drive. I mean, you know, you get off the tires quick, but it's a fun racetrack for a driver because it is so challenging, and you slide around. If you like to slide a race car around, this is your dream racetrack.
2001 winner of the Southern 500, Ward Burton in the 22 for Bill Davis.
And I also told the fans, Wally, that they're getting a break because this race will not mention gasoline one time.
Nope, that is for sure.
Talking about Ward winning this race a few years ago. Look back on that day, Labor Day weekend, 2001. Here's both of his Darlington wins. He picked up the win in the spring race in March of 2000. Big day for him, and then behind the pace car, brought the field to the caution and the checkered flags, and bounced the engine off the rev limiter when he was doing the Victory Donuts. Ward from South Boston, Virginia, says he remembers coming to this racetrack with his two brothers and his father as a young kid, being in a camper out behind here, and spending the weekend as a race fan at the Southern 500. It was a big deal for them.
Go ahead, Marty.
Well, Wally, their team took the time and expense to come here and test at this racetrack. They felt like the setup had gotten away from them. And during that first practice, Ward came and told me after it was over with, he said, you know what? It had nothing. The car had nothing of the feel it had here in testing. This racetrack has changed completely, he said, since we tested here. So they were way too loose in that first practice. They changed the front sway bar. They changed some springs. Car much better right now. But Ward said, you know, we were terrible in that first practice.
Talked about Ward coming here with his two brothers. There's Ward, middle brother Brian, and younger brother Jeff, also a former Darlington winner here. 1999 was the year, and Jeff took both ends of the Darlington doubleheader that year. Kind of became known as the Rain Man for this one. Was involved in a crash, and then it started raining. He was leading, was involved in a crash, brought the field to the red under the rain. They covered the car up, and it never got restarted, and he won the race in the rain with his beat-up race car. Then later in the year, made the Darlington sweep in winning the Southern 500. That was 1999.
BP, when you came here for the first time, did they have a, because when I came here the first time, they had a test, especially for here for the rookies. Did you have to do that, too?
Yes.
I know they stopped doing that about 7 or 8 years ago, but you came here and you had to run a special test before you could go out and practice and qualify.
And that's right. Rookies could not qualify the first day. Even if they had passed the test, they could not qualify that first day.
How about Jeff Burton, Marty?
Well, you know, Alan, you know the program lap tracker that these teams use that keeps track of every lap that these race cars run?
Right.
If they gave the trophy based off that, I think the 99 would walk home right now and take it away. This car is extremely consistent, and just an unofficial survey of a lot of teams down here, they say the 99 is the best car out here. When they tested here, they did nothing but race setups, and they ran over 850 miles over 2 days. Jeff said he was worn out after the 2 days were over with, but it's really paid off. They learned a lot during that test, and the car very good right now.
9 Southern 500 starts for Jeff Burton. 7 top 10 finishes. He's led 5 of them. Kevin Harvick getting some work done on his Chevy. High bank short track racing. If that's your thing, you'll want to check out the ARCA Series race from Winchester, Indiana. 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight here on Speed.
That'll be a good one.
You know, I raced ARCA for 2 years and never ran Winchester. No? Never been there.
What I hear, I've never been there either, but what I hear, you missed something then.
I've watched it on TV several times and might tonight, but...
I've never run there, but it's one of my favorites to watch, no matter what they're racing there.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. out in Winston Cup final practice for the 54th Southern 500 at Darlington. See, he's qualified 12th fastest for the race. We talked with him earlier, said his car he thought was pretty decent, was going to go out, run a few laps, make sure nothing had changed, and it sounded to me like he was hitting that we might quit early.
That blows the competitors' minds when you quit early. Let's take a lap with Junior.
Up in 3 and 4 right here, right up against Wall. Like PP said, that Wall is a magnet. Right here, when you put the gas down, you're doing it really slow and gentle.
Now, talk about down in 3 and 4, how you try to look out the window up here, and all you can see, you can't see anything except the roof of the race car. You can't see where you're going. So it has to be by feel, and you have to use reference points, as he talked about.
And you see him fighting that wheel? That's not because the car's not handling. That car actually is handling pretty good. That's how hard you have to drive around this racetrack just to try to keep the car straight and smooth. The driver works hard on keeping the car in a four-wheel drift and not getting the rear sliding or the front sliding.
Going back to the working hard thing, Benny was talking about earlier before you joined us, Wally, about how this race tomorrow in the hot, humid weather conditions will be one of the most physically demanding that the drivers will face in some time.
This place is very, very tough on a driver. You need to be pounding the fluids for today and yesterday and everything, because you're going to lose a lot of it.
Dave Burns has got something he'd like to impart on us.
It would be the 29 crew also working hard, guys. These crews have been sweating it out all weekend long. Right now for Kevin Harvick, they are changing the rear end gear in all 4 shocks on this car. Not because it really needs it for balance. They were very happy with the way it was in this morning's practice session, 11th quick on the chart. But they want to see if they can build some longevity into these tires, making this thing last over the long run. So they're going to change. I just talked with Gil Martin. He said they're going to make several shock changes, check the wear of the tires, and really change it based on what will keep the tires under it longer. Marty?
Well, Dave, Michael Waltrip's car is loose, and Wally, what happens when your car is loose at Darlington?
You get striped.
That's right. That's what happened to Michael just a little while ago. Actually, that was the first practice this morning. He also hit it yesterday, but they tried to tighten it up with a front sway bar. Michael said he didn't like that. They're going to effect a rear spring change here, and you notice they in the spring right over here on the right side of the car, they had a rubber in it. You got to build adjustability into the race car here, but you don't want your car to be loose. Michael said, I don't like how that felt last time. Please tighten it up.
You know what? If you run a whole race here and you don't come in with the stripe, your crew's going to ask you, what the heck were you doing?
You weren't driving hard enough.
You have to have a stripe on this car after race, or they're exactly what BP says. They're going to say, well, he wasn't trying very hard.
Last race for Jeff Green in the #1 Pennzoil car.
Yeah, word is John Andretti goes into that car starting in Richmond next week.
Jeff Green down the back stretch. This gets up to about 176 miles per hour. You know, when they slap the wall up there, they're running about 130 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. All right, let's try down to 1 and 2. Oops.
We're going to have to guess on this one.
Yeah. He's probably running about 178 there. No, not quite. 172, 3. Ooh,
you know, that's one of those corners that as many times as you sit here and you watch it, you really can't do justice to how awkward it is. When you go down and stand in that infield, down inside turn 1 there, and watch those cars come steaming in and trying to keep off that wall, it's unbelievable.
You ought to try it from inside. It's unbelievable.
Not if you're driving. I've seen what you do.
It's unbelievable.
Now, here's a guy I'd jump in with.
And his record here is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's a 5-time
You know, you have no adventure in you, Alan. No adventure at all.
He's a 5-time Southern 500 winner. 5 wins in 10 Southern 500 starts.
And right now, he'd love to pass that 12 car just to pass him, just to blow his mind. But it doesn't look like he's going to be able to.
Can you imagine winning this race 4 straight years?
No.
1995, Jeff Gordon wins. Happy times. I won one of the biggest races in NASCAR. All right, let's come back. 1996. Hey, let's do it again. 2 straight. That was as much as anybody had ever won this race in a row. Then he came back and had this terrific knockdown, drag-out, last lap fight with Jeff Burton to win 3 in a row. But he wasn't done. Another little $1 million payday for 4 in a row. Then he came back and won the race last year in 2002. 5 wins in 10 Southern 500 starts. If he wins again tomorrow, he'll break the tie that he's in now with the great Cale Yarborough and become the first 6-time winner of this race. Marty, what's up?
And this is the car you saw in victory lane last year with Jeff Gordon as he heads off into turn 1 right now, trying to make a long run here for Jeff. They have not been able to do that in the first practice session or at the beginning of this practice session. Car just does not feel good to Jeff at the beginning of a run, and they're trying to get it a little bit looser. It gets too tight the longer he runs. Dave?
Well, Marty, I spoke with Tony Stewart's crew chief, Greg Zipadelli, just before this session got started. I asked him what they were going to do. They had a little bit of a tight on exit condition with the car. They were going to try to get that out of the car first and then make some wholesale changes to try to make it fast over the long run. they've gotten it just a little bit too loose, so they have to back up a little bit on that and then work on longevity. Marty, back to you.
Well, Wally and Vinny, see if this sounds familiar. Bobby Labonte says it won't turn in and it's sliding the nose in the middle of the corner. Please fix it. That's what he said to Fatback a moment ago as crew chief Michael McSwain. So what they did is they added a little bit of a smaller front sway bar, 2 new rear springs, 2 new front shocks for Bobby Labonte. Car not handling the way he would like at the beginning of a run. But the goal here for everybody, trying to be good on that longer run.
Yeah, because the short run here is about 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah. And I tell you what, it sounds to me like these guys are running stiffer springs and things than it used to be here. It used to be, I thought it was more of a mechanical grip thing here, but now it seems like they're trying to get more and more out of the body to get downforce on them.
Yeah, they're really trying to use that. I talked to some of the Busch guys this morning. There's going to be a NASCAR Busch Series race here in just a couple hours, and some of those guys I couldn't believe how soft they were in the front, just trying to get the whole car down.
And yeah, but they got the rear up, or they got the right rear up hard to keep that spoiler up to pin the nose. So yeah, it's you couldn't run the springs they're running now 10 years ago in these cars.
Joe Nemechek in the 25 out practicing. Here's the most recent race winner here at Darlington, Ricky Craven. 32 car. Qualified 8th for the Southern 500, trying to make the season sweep here at the track too tough to tame. If you like your racing two-wheel style, later today on Speed, AMA Superbikes up at that Virginia International Raceway road course outside of Danville. 2 p.m. Eastern, live today here on Speed.
VIR, where a lot of these NASCAR Winston Cup teams use to practice for road courses.
Yep. Nice course up there. They all speak very highly of it. Greg Biffle speaks very highly of his race car this weekend. Qualified 9th for the Southern 500. Crew chief change on that team, yeah.
Darcy has a new crew chief this week. By the way, Marty, did they ever find out what's wrong with a 40 car?
BP, I have good news. The 40 bunch seems to have solved their problem. What they did between practices is they changed the distributor, the plug wires, and the ignition boxes, and the miss in the engine has gone away. I asked Sterling, is there any sign of it? He said no. I talked to Tony Santanicola, the head engine builder for Chip Ganassi Racing. He said it's completely gone. And the good thing is on the radio, you hear all the other teams comparing their times to how the 40 is. Sterling's going out now on sticker tires, going to try to make a long run just to make sure it's all gone. But a lot of teams are saying the 40 car very, very good.
Well, so far on our computer up here, he is the fastest car in this session, but really doesn't matter too much. It's how are you in that 30th or 40th lap.
Johnny Benson, good qualifying run yesterday. Going to start 11th in the Southern 500.
I think this racetrack kind of suits Johnny Benson. His NASCAR Winston Cup victory was at Rockingham, and it serviced there a great deal like this.
Benson's a very smooth driver, very smooth with the gas on and off and so on. And then on the tracks where the grip in the tires goes away fast, that's got to be a plus.
Yes, it is. Got to be smooth on the throttle.
It just feels like the front's real lazy in the middle of the corner. Does a little both off 4. I can kind of control 4 pretty good. Turn 2, if I hit it right, she's good. If I don't hit it right, it's just a touch tight coming down the hill.
Okay, this combination's quite a bit better than where we started practice, though, right?
Yeah, I think when he's saying that thing is lazy, it's probably rolling. It sounds like he's probably getting an aero tight coming off of 2. The car rolls over and it's lazy. Tries to drive down the hill and it catches air underneath and it pushes a little bit.
Mark Martin's former winner of the Southern 500. 1993. Had one of his best runs of this season back in the March race here. Started 27th, charged up to finish 4th, led 71 laps.
There's another guy that's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
He's, let's see, 8th best in this practice session. There you see the speed.
The throttle.
Yep.
Work the throttle. Then when you think you got that car pointed straight enough, that's when you put it to the floor. Here again, you let the car roll, start picking up the gas, give it a little more, give it a little more, give it a little more, nail it.
Terry Labonte, great qualifying run yesterday. 3rd fastest is where he will start. Dave, how's his car now?
Alan, I just spoke with Jim Long, his crew chief. They said this morning they didn't get out quite as soon as they wanted to and really never got any good laps in. The laps they did get in the car was very, very tight. So they went to making it a little bit looser. It got too loose in the center. They just put a bigger front sway bar in there to try to fix that. And it appears that it may have corrected the problem. Let's go across the pit area here to Marty Snyder.
Well, Dave, let's talk about the problem that Jeff Gordon had at Michigan with the kill switches. And what this team has done now, they have eliminated all the kill switches from their steering wheels. The 24 and the 48 have done that. Instead, what they have put in is the new Roush system, not the new Roush system, but the Roush system inside the engine that senses brake pedal pressure versus gas pedal pressure. And they put it in every one of their cars, and almost $1,000 a pop at 30 cars. That's a pretty big bill to change over. But remember how that cost Jeff Gordon in Michigan. He hit the kill switch once, and they thought he hit it a second time, but he had a problem otherwise on the car. But they have eliminated all the kill switches from the 24 and 48 cars. Car tight right now for Jeff Gordon.
That's a good idea. Hey, when you have a problem one time, there's not much you can do about it. If it happens a second time, shame on you.
Jeremy Mayfield going to start 15th in the Mountain Dew Southern 500.
I got a kick out of Evernham yesterday. Jeremy Mayfield was very fast in the practice session before qualifying yesterday. And Ray said, look, we got a shot for the pole. Either bring a trophy or the steering wheel back. He brought the steering wheel back. Yeah. Bounced it off the wall. Still qualified 15th.
Yep. It's been a very good track for Jeremy, too. 5 top 5 finishes here.
I remember a few years ago, he was just going away with the Southern 500 and trying to lap Dave Marcus down the backstretch. They got together and he crashed with a 3 or 4 second lead.
We'll have to put those numbers back on there for tomorrow.
You don't want to put them on just yet.
Oh,
you put those on when all practice is over.
Okay. So you don't waste another set of decals in case he stripes it again?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm with you. What's up, Dave?
Alan pole sitter Ryan Newman in the garage right now. Actually pretty happy with the car. Crew Chief Matt Borland talking to him as he sits in here. But they made many changes while he sits here, and that's because now they want to try stuff. Got the car balanced the way they wanted it. He was tight last time. They went down the front bar. Still a little bit tight, but very happy with the way the car is overall. Marty?
Well, Dave, Michael Waltrip's a little bit happier with his car. Very good on the long runs, he says, but he said it needs more front grip, especially on those longer runs, and they're going to try and get that with some front shocks. So Benny and Wally, my question, front grip's usually a big key like at Martinsville or Richmond when you want to get forward bite off of the corner, getting that car to grab. Big key here at Darlington as well?
Yeah, well, it is especially in between 1 and 2 because you're driving it off the top of the racetrack down to the bottom of the racetrack on the exit of turn 2. So, yeah, that front needs to grip.
And if the front doesn't grip, Marty, you know what happens?
The back doesn't grip, BP.
You hit the wall. You run in the wall. That's what happens with no front grip.
That's not good here.
And that's not good.
Jimmy Spencer much in the headlines yesterday upon his return from his 1-week suspension from NASCAR Winston Cup Racing. Came here to Darlington to climb back aboard the 7 and went out to make his Bud Pole qualifying run. And it didn't work out.
And I talked to Jimmy right after that, and he was very, very disappointed because I said, how good was the car? He said, we had a pole-winning car.
And I think why he got loose there, I think he jumped on the gas pretty hard. You know, on your qualifying lap, you're going to jump on the gas as hard as you can in turn 4, especially that was coming to the green, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it just looked like it jumped out on him a little bit when he got to the throttle.
Bobby Labonte, the 2000 winner of the Mountain Dew Southern 500, out making some practice laps in his Joe Gibbs Chevrolet as his crew chief Michael McSwain keeps the stopwatch. Wind Tunnel is now 4 nights a week. Dave Despain taking your calls. Big headline makers in the sport as his guest is taking your questions as well. Monday through Thursday, 9 Eastern, Wind Tunnel here on Speed. I'll tell you what, you walk around the garage, there's a lot of people that caught on to Wind Tunnel. Really enjoying what Dave's doing with that show.
Oh, Dave Despain is a great guy. Worked with him for a few years.
Yeah, I've watched the show a couple times. I'm still trying to catch yours, Alan, but I will, I promise, one of these days.
Thank you. Somebody feed you that line?
No, absolutely. I came up with that on my own.
Wow, proud of you. Dale Jarrett, pretty good car here in this final practice for the Mountain Dew Southern 500. 3rd quickest so far as the fast lap is concerned. He's He's run 24 laps, running out there just ahead of Jeff Burton. Jared going to start 19th in the race on Sunday. Marty, got Joe Nemechek.
I do, and he is the one in front of Dale Jarrett. Second fastest. Joe, obviously good on the short run there on the fast lap, but is it good on the long runs?
Very good on the long run. We made a few changes. We started out this morning extremely tight. For some reason the track was really loose yesterday, and I think a lot of us overcompensated. And UAW Delphi Chevy is really, really good. Even on low pressures we can go fast, so it's going to be a good day. We're really good here the first race this year, and I got to thank Peter Suspenzo and all these guys. Got a killer motor. The body on this car is awesome. Just everybody's worked so hard, and we just need to have a good day on Sunday.
It's hot out there right now. How much of a factor is that going to be tomorrow, Joe?
It's definitely hot. We had a lot of clouds today, so I think it was hotter yesterday. Just depends what the weather does, but it'll definitely be a factor. I mean, staying hydrated. I mean, I'm soaking wet right now, and it's we haven't been practicing long.
When this run was over, that's the first thing he wanted, a drink of water, and that was it. Dave?
Marty, Rusty Wallace has made about 10 laps on this run. They were working on getting the car a little bit better going into the corner. Crew Chief Billy Wilburn said it was just a fraction loose getting in. So they changed front springs. Rusty radioed back just a couple of laps ago. Much better.
And Rusty Wallace last lap about 31.28, and these guys qualified about 29 flat. So 2 seconds slowdown from qualifying to on the racetrack with 15-20 laps on the tires.
One of the few tracks on the Winston Cup circuit where Rusty Wallace has never won a race. Hard to believe, but he's never taken the checkered flag here at Darlington. Jamie McMurray hasn't either. Of course, he's run all of one Winston Cup race here so far. Starting 17th tomorrow. Winston Cup final practice from Darlington Raceway for the Southern 500 on Speed. Time to figure out who will be the 2003 Driver of the Year. You, along with the distinguished media panel, can decide which driver in American motorsports deserves this prestigious honor. Log on to speedtv.com now and cast your vote from among this quarter's nominees. Winston Cup Championship leader Matt Kenseth is among those on the list who you might possibly vote for. I didn't see your name on there, Wally.
I don't know why not.
Robbie Gordon, he could be on there. 2 victories this year.
Yeah, could be.
I guess, Wally, David Spade wouldn't have voted for you for that Driver of the Year?
No. No, definitely not.
Something about hitting the wall 3 times or 2 times in 3 laps. It just didn't register. I don't know. Jimmy Johnson going to start on the outside of row number 1 for the Mountain Dew Southern 500 on Sunday.
When he put that lap down yesterday, I just knew that was going to be pole position for the Mountain Dew Southern 500, but along came Ryan Newman.
That car looks loose. We'll find out what the pit boys say, but 48 car looks loose to me.
Dave Blaney's best finish of the season in the 77 car came in the March race here at Darlington when he finished in 3rd. Dave?
Yeah, and I just spoke with Woody Barker, his crew chief, Alan. They were really, really happy with that car at the beginning of happy hour. So they know it's good. They're going to leave it that way. Booty said the track changed just a little bit since the spring. It's a little bit looser, and they adapted to that. So in Booty's words, now I'm just trying some ding-dang things to see if I can find out anything more. Marty?
Dave, Kurt Busch's car a lot better right now. Let me show you something neat. They're changing the rear shocks. Look, they put a hole in the back of where your trunk would be so you can access the rear shocks a little easier. They close the little hole up, and then you got your little door there for the rear shocks so you can access the top of the rear shocks. They also took out some right front camber out of this 97 car. Kurt a lot happier, said the car feels much, much better in this practice than it did the first one.
We're all thinking the same thing.
Exactly. Don't be concerned about that socket because it hit the ground.
Yeah.
Somebody will get it.
It's not a compartment in there. It just it goes inside the rear tin, but they'll pick that up in a minute. How about Bill Elliott, speaking of former Southern 500 winners? 3 times, 85, 88, 94.
I remember 1985 very well.
I do too.
Most people do, if they've been fans of the sport for a little while. But you know, he says that was his best Darlington memory. His worst came here the very next year. Back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Since we were speaking of 1985, they decided we'd refresh everybody's memory here for a second.
Winston had a program that if you won they call it 4 major races: Daytona race, World 600, the race here in Talladega. If you won 3 out of the 4, you could win $1 million bonus. And by winning here, he won 3 out of the 4 and won the Winston Million, and that was a big deal.
They won everywhere that year.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They had a lot of races, 11 races that year, and lost the championship.
Yeah.
Bill says his worst Darlington memory was the very next year, 1986 Southern 500. Race has been delayed by rain. It's getting dark. He and Tim Richmond are racing for the win, and they go off into what was then turn 1, what's now turn 3, and Bill's leading, and he just drove straight into the wall.
It's a magnet.
That magnet thing you were talking about.
It's a magnet, I'm telling you.
And lost the race to Tim Richmond.
And somebody turned the magnet on. Well, see, but he was trying to win. I started here on the pole in the 400.
Yep.
In the spring, in April. I drove in the wall on the first corner of the first lap from the pole. There's a magnet. They turned the magnet on, and I couldn't help it. I just drove in the wall.
I'm not sure I'd tell that story too many times.
I know.
What the heck?
Yeah. Hey, you got to win here, so you balance it out. Success, failure, you know.
What did you tell your guys when you hit the wall?
Oh man,
sorry.
Very sheepishly. Sorry.
Bill Elliott in search of a 4th win in the Southern 500 tomorrow. Mike Skinner qualified 16th in the Army car. He'll be trying to march toward the front. Just a few minutes left of Winston Cup final practice here at Darlington Raceway. A lot of things have changed over the years. Those grandstands on the back stretch now used to be the front stretch. That roof used to go all the way down the straightaway.
See, this used to be the best seat in the house because on Labor Day, it was shaded. You were in the shade.
And all the guys were in the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was
right in front. See all those tire marks there? That's where all the cars hit the wall. The problem became as the cars got more and more horsepower, they became so noisy, and the noise would echo under those grandstands. Man, it was loud.
Some things haven't changed at Darlington over the years, though, like the magnetism of the outside wall. We were talking about things that went well and things that didn't go well for BP. Here was a day we got to digging into the tape room on that was going well and didn't end up that way.
Oh, no, I was running along second there behind Bobby Allison.
And that's you in the 72.
There's David Pearson right behind me in 21. Pearson's going down the front stretch, down in turn 1. You're going 1, and folks, it's not going to be good. Look out, BP. Crash, bang.
I'll tell you what. Pearson wasn't going to make that corner. He was going to hit the wall, but you were there instead.
That was the old 8 tires is better than 4 trick.
Yeah.
And Bobby Allison in an AMC Matador took the checkered flag that day.
There it is. Where's your car?
I got my parking spot down there, but I don't have my car down there. I got a better spot.
They got a row behind the front stretch pit road called Winner's Alley, where if you win a race at Darlington, you get one of those very prime reserved parking spaces. Old BP's name's right there. Jimmy Johnson. In the 48 car, we said looked like he was loose. What is he? Dave?
I stuck my head in the window when he was in just a couple minutes ago, guys, and he said, oh, yeah, real loose. He didn't know what they were going to change back on it, though. And, in fact, when I went to his crew chief, Chad Knaus, to check, Chad says, I don't know. He says, we're off. Now, they're not doing bad in Happy Hour. They did qualify on the outside of the front row, and I've never known these guys to quit, so I don't expect them to be horrible in the race tomorrow. But right now, Chad not very confident about where they are, and Jimmy's car is loose.
Yeah, it looked it. He didn't stay out there very long afterwards either. It was like, we need to fix this now.
Talk about riding with you or riding with Jeff Gordon. You can ride with a lot of guys here at Darlington during the Mountain Dew Southern 500 with onboard cameras and NASCAR in-car on in-demand. Plus, you get the virtual dashboards, real-time in-car data, live team audio, 1-888 Sports In on digital cable.
I go back to Tony Uri Sr., missed the Sears Point race and bought that package. He said it was wonderful. He rode with Junior the entire race, listened to the communication between Tony Jr. and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Wonderful.
Yeah, a little bit of a vested interest there.
Yeah, that's right. He wanted to see the gauges and make sure it wasn't running too hot. He probably had him on the phone in case it was running too hot.
Been an interesting week for Kurt Busch. Earlier in the week, Kurt and some of the management of Roush Racing had a meeting with the representatives of Newell Rubbermaid, his sponsors, and at the end, both Newell Rubbermaid and Kurt Busch issued statements. Kurt basically apologizing this week to his fans, team, sponsors, media, and fellow competitors, saying obviously he handled the Michigan situation poorly, and says he knows words are cheap and that the sincerity and commitment to change on his behalf will be judged by what he does in the weeks and months ahead.
No question about it. He has got to earn back the respect of the drivers. And that's something that it takes a long time to earn that respect to begin with. But then when you lose it, it's tough getting it back. So yeah, he's got some work ahead of him.
I think the interesting part of the whole situation was when Newell Rubbermaid issued their statement. They said that they wanted their race team and driver to reflect the company's ideals and so on and so on. But then they said they're going to work with Roush Racing to develop a mentoring program for Kurt, which will include scheduled meetings with teammates and other veteran competitors.
I don't know about that other veteran competitors. Are they having barbecues together, or what's their... Come on, Alan. Give me some material here.
I don't know what the specifics will be.
Picnics in the camping area?
You think? Let's have a little wine and cheese and talk about it?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
They must be talking about a different series.
But it's pretty amazing the fallout of the events of a couple of weeks ago. When Jimmy Spencer came out to qualify here yesterday, he got a huge standing ovation. The people were screaming for him.
And then
they were screaming even more.
Exactly, when he crashed going off turn 4. Yep. Qualifying.
Elliott Sadler, another one who came here with his father and his family as a kid to see the Southern 500. He's qualified 4th. Dave, how's his car?
Well, I just checked with his car chief, Dave Smith, because Elliott had reported in that his car was a bit tight getting in and through the middle. And he said it was pretty good getting up off the corner, though, so they were working on very technical things like changing upper points and Ackerman. And, you know, I didn't even really want to get into all that, so that basically they're working on suspension to try to get him a little bit looser getting in and through the middle of that corner. Geometry, that's right.
There you go.
It had something to do with math, right, Alan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I let you tell the story, thank you.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm lost.
Elliott put a Darlington stripe on the side of that Ford yesterday morning in one of the early laps of practice.
This is one place I'm trying to see how much tape. You don't see the tape on the front of these cars like you do at a lot of racetracks because of all the rubber and debris on this racetrack. It plugs up the grills real fast, so you don't have that benefit of the downforce that you get with putting tape on the grill because of that. Another thing is the windshield's problem here. Seeing.
Red and black flags are out. Final practice is finished here in Darlington. Sterling Marlin ran the fastest lap. We'll come back to the track too tough to tame in just a minute on Speed. Pole sitter for tomorrow's Mountain Dew Southern 500, Ryan Newman, there with his crew chief Matt Borland, talking things over after final practice has been finished. Marty.
Well, the championship leader, Matt Kenseth, the last thing he said on the radio was, let's get back in and let's just start over, because the last change you guys made went exactly the opposite way it needed to go for us. The car very loose for Matt on the longer runs, and you guys talked about how bad the windshields are here. Let me show you with the sand blasting that goes on this racetrack. This used to be all black. Look at all that. It's chipped off. All this paint's chipped off from all the rock and debris that happens here at Darlington. Dave?
Well, Ricky Craven just finishing up a little debrief here with his crew chief, Scott Miller. The spring winter, we want to check in with you and see how your car is today, Rick.
It's good. It's interesting because we got a couple of scenarios. We got a setup that we explored today, and then we got the setup that we ran in the spring. And the setup that we won with in the spring, it really prevailed over the long run when the track got slick. Well, that's what we got here, you know. Labor Day, it's hot, the track's really greasy, and we're going to gamble on that and hope it pays off again.
No doubt, Alan, they kept those notes.
Ricky Craven will take the green flag in 8th position tomorrow as we look at the front part of the starting field for the 54th Mountain Dew Southern 500.
And you see Kenseth there in row 6, Craven right behind him, and Biffle and Blaney in row 5.
Johnny Benson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., good qualifying runs, and Jeff Gordon, the 5-time Southern 500 winner, to come from row 7.
And Kevin Harvick has been hot. Can he continue it here at Darlington?
Yeah, Harvick second the last 2 straight weeks, right?
We know he'll be hot, but I'm talking about on the racetrack.
Yeah. Ward Burton going to come from row 15, along with Ricky Rudd in the Wood Brothers car. Michael Waltrip took a big hit in the championship standings last week, dropped him down to 8th after that wreck at Bristol. Should have come from row 19. Derek Cope and Hermie Sadler did not practice much in this final practice. In fact, Hermie never went out at all. Derek just made a few laps. Looked like his team was changing an engine. And here's how they went today as far as fastest laps were concerned.
Which don't mean a whole lot.
No.
BP said it's really what you wound up with, not what you start with.
500 miles at Darlington tomorrow in the Southern 500. Should be a good one. Coverage at 12:30 Eastern on NBC. Dale Earnhardt Jr. among those trying to score one of NASCAR's most prestigious races.